Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Trades, the 4%. Today I have Morgan here with me, and she's a crane operator. We're going to get right into it today, and she's going to tell us about how she got started in her career.
Thanks, Hunter. So how I started was a little bit different. I never thought I would ever be in a blue collar position. Truly, growing up, I knew I always wanted to become a teacher, and that's something that I always knew from when I was growing up that I wanted to be. So I was took a summer off after high school, just wanted to make sure that it's for sure what I wanted to do. And I was waitressing, making all right money, but not the best money. And I was fortunate enough that my dad already works in the trades. So he said, "Well, Morgan, why are you waitressing for money when you could come and be a laborer? And if you like it, great." And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, me, like a laborer, there's no chance for that. Like, I am the biggest girly girl. Do you really think that I could be a laborer? Like, there's no chance. And I really laughed it off with him. And he's like, "Well, try it out. Like, worst case, you hate it, you quit. You can go back to waitressing and then you can go to school the next year." And I was like, "Okay, that's good logic. If I want to try it out, why not?" So I tried it out and I was like, "This is such easy money. And I'm making like mad money for actually quite easy work." Like, I was painting crane mats and just like working around the crane slowly. And I was like, maybe this is something that I actually want to do. So the more I worked around the cranes and had that opportunity, I was like, I should become a crane operator. Like, they make killer money. And truly, in Alberta, it's only a 3-year program. So what is 3 years of my life? If I can do the 3-year program, I'll always have that ticket underneath my belt, and no one can ever take that away from me. And after the 3 years, if I don't want to do it, I can go to school and become a teacher. And now, 9 years later, here I am, and I still love crane operating. And I'm just so grateful that he opened the door for me so I can succeed and prove myself.
Absolutely, that is awesome. And people think that 3 years is a big time commitment for a career, but you're getting paid the whole time, correct? You got paid, that whole 3 years, and it's worth it. Just like college, you would end up being in college for normally 2 to 8 years or more, depending on what you want to do. And generally, you're not ending up with a bunch of debt.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was very fortunate when I went to school. My union paid for all my books, all my dues. So, and I got a bunch of scholarships when I went to school. So I made more money going to school. I finished my career, well, finished off my apprenticeship, and I didn't have any student debt. And I was just making such good money. I could buy my own house, and like, I was so financially set up for myself. And that was 3 years after I graduated. So it was
Yeah.
incredible.
Exactly. It's awesome. It really being in the trades changed my life for sure in that aspect. My apprenticeship program was 4 years, and like of course I started not making very much money at all, but quickly, I mean, every year you get raises and it starts to add up when you finally get to that journeyman scale and you realize it's worth it. Just like you said, I have been able to buy a house, and it's pretty unbelievable because I never thought like being in the trades would pay off as much as it really does.
Yeah, truly, it's set me up, and even just getting my foot in the door, it has opened so many opportunities. I've been offered to teach at our NATE, which is our school that we go to for our apprenticeship. I've been offered jobs at our union. I've worked in the office for a little bit within our company. Like, honestly, it's opened so many doors that I didn't even know existed.
It really does. I've got to do some fun stuff like welding summer camps where I actually got to have sixth graders MIG weld and stuff. So, just like you said, all the doors it opens, and even if you don't want to work out in the field forever, there's always other positions that will open up, in the future for, like you said, office positions, project management, estimators, because all that is always needed as well.
And truly, like, I've spoken at a lot of high schools and junior highs as well in our community, and a lot of the females, especially, they don't even know the trades are an option for them. So it's incredible just to even put that little bug in their ear that, hey, maybe you could be a welder, you could be a crane operator. Have you ever thought about heavy duty mechanics? And a lot of them have thought like, no, maybe that's not, I haven't thought about that before. But then the gears start turning and they're like, I could work in a trade.
No, seriously, and that's part of why I do this because I was one of those women, and it sounds like you were too, that just never even considered it as an option, and then we ended up doing it and loving it, you know? So you
Yeah,
never know until you try.
exactly.
So what kind of job sites do you normally work on a day-to-day basis?
So within the cranes, there's three type of cranes that I can run. So there's the rough terrain cranes; those are mostly on plant sites. There's the all-terrain cranes, and those you'll need your class one for, like where you can drive your tractor trailer, and you drive around town. And then there's the crawler cranes, and those are usually set up on a project site as well. So I've ran all three. Recently, I just did a stint on an industrial plant site. So it was a shutdown, working 6 and 1. I was running an rough terrain crane there. Majority of my background is in the all terrain cranes, which basically in the morning you jump in the crane, you drive it to where you have to go. So my favorite is driving downtown in rush hour. Like it's just so much fun. Then you get to your location, you set up, do a few lifts, and then come back. So you're all over Alberta, which is super cool. Lifting anything from like air units, building buildings, and that's my favorite because every single day is different and I love the chaos. They don't really tell you what you're doing until the day before. And then it's so cool to be able to drive around my own city and you can't even go 10 blocks without pointing out something that I've done. So that's why I love working in the city. And especially one day I do want kids and I can show them, be like, hey, mom put that up. Hey, do you see that power pole? Yeah, your mom did that. So
Yep, you'll be like every stereotypical trades dad, like, "Yep, I built that, I worked on that." I love that because same even when I'm in the car with my friends, I'm like,
yeah.
"Yep, there you see those apartments over there? We built those."
I know, right? It's a cool feeling, especially because like you work with your hands too. Everything gets built. You have that instant satisfaction because you're building something so fast. When I worked in the office for the small stint, it was a different type of satisfaction where you're like, okay, I pulled off a shutdown or something along those. But it's just so different to go to a job site and put up an entire building in a few days and
Mhm.
come home, and it's so cool. You feel so good about yourself.
It's really fulfilling, especially when you see it all done at the end and people living in it or people working there, or just in my case, like your lines in service and things being used. It's just like, wow, like without us and our trade, none of this would be possible. And it really is, like you said, just an insane feeling. And it's so fulfilling to me. And I never would have thought that it would be, but yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, I love it.
So, do you ever are there any women in your union that also operate?
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of us. It's definitely we're definitely the minority, but it's growing every single year, honestly.
That's
I think
awesome.
there's about 30 of us in our union where I think we're about 300, but I could be off a little bit. But I know we have about 30 women members, and that includes like crane operators and equipment operators. But in our company itself, we probably have about, like my branch, probably have about 7 or 8 girls, which is incredible. The site I was just on was honestly like the most girls I've ever seen. It was so cool. There was 5 of us in one lunchroom, and like I've never been on a site where there's been that many female crane operators. So it's honestly so cool just to see us growing.
That's awesome. I definitely feel like it's getting out there more and more and more women are starting to take the leap and try out, what's traditionally known as male dominated careers.
Yeah, exactly.
So, is there any math involved with your job? Like, because I know when you're doing picks that are really heavy and stuff, like, you have to there's some math involved. You normally engineers and stuff handle it, but do you ever have to deal with any math or anything in your job?
Yeah, so math is like I'd say a huge portion in crane operating.
Mhm.
It probably goes up to about grade 9 math. So you're doing adding, subtracting. The Pythagorean theorem is a big one too. But yeah, grade 9 math, I would say, would be where we're at. But yeah, it's especially important because if you make the wrong calculation, like there's people underneath your hook, and that's a big responsibility because their lives are in your hands. So if you're not good at math, maybe not a crane operator, but they also have a lot of safety features within the crane as well.
Absolutely. I wondered because a lot of people worry about that, about math and how much they have to do when joining a trade. And in my case, it's pretty similar. You know, we have to know the Pythagorean theorem to calculate offsets and 45s and whatnot. And then also we have to give our crane operators the information how heavy our pipes and isos and stuff are so they're able to do those calculations safely. So yeah, I was wondering about that in your career for sure. It seems to be like math is the big thing, but like you said, it's generally like grade 9 level and apprenticeships. Like they hammered that into our brains like our first and second year of apprenticeship so that we could be successful fitters.
Yeah, exactly. Like they hammer it into you.
Yeah. Especially for you, like you said, lives are at stake. Like it's when we have critical picks, we do whole lift meetings before with the operator, the engineer, the GM on site and everybody just so we have a clear plan and to keep everyone safe because that's the goal most of the time at the end of the day is to get everyone home safe, have a successful work day, you know.
Yeah, you always want to see everyone go home the exact way that they came to work.
Yes, for sure. So, what would you say that your biggest success has been so far in your career?
Honestly, I love teaching apprentices. I love bringing women into the trades. One of my biggest passion is bringing women and the younger generation into the trades. So I think I honestly just created a group recently, and it's called the YEG Blue Collar Women. And it started because I went to a conference down in New Orleans, and it's a annual conference for union women. But you can be non-union or union to join, but it's mostly union women because the unions send them down. But it's this huge conference, and last year it was 5,200 tradeswomen at this one location, and it's so cool because you've never been in a place with that many tradeswomen because it's the largest gathering of us in the world. And it kind of got my gears going. I attended one breakout room, and it was called Building a Sisterhood. And we had a women's committee. Well, we still have a women's committee within our own union, but I feel like the women aren't as bought in. It's on a smaller scale. There's only 30 of us. So I wanted to see what I could do to bring it to a bigger scale. So last month I created the YEG Blue Collar Women group, and within a month we already have 800 members, which is incredible. And so we meet. I wanted it to be monthly, but it seems to be weekly, which is incredible. And we go for either like walks in the park. We went to a fundraiser event. We went to haunted houses. There's a lot of things coming up too, and I think a lot of the women didn't realize it's nice to have a sisterhood and build that solidarity between each other because
Hmm.
there's some things men just can't relate to in the trade. And don't get me wrong, I would be nowhere in this trade if the men didn't teach me how to become a crane operator. Like I was mentored by strictly men. But I think it is so cool to be able to bond with another woman about similar things. And it doesn't matter what trade you're in, we always find something that is like in common. So
Yeah.
honestly, this group has been so important to a lot of the women, and we're meeting later today for a walk in the park, and then we're going to a women's workwear event. So it's just cool to see and build networking connections. I can be on a site and a woman would come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm actually part of your group," and it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah, I love that. That is super awesome. And it's important, like you said, not only do men not understand what it's like to be a woman on a job site, even though it's the same job, but a lot of our normal friends who are women don't understand unless they actually also work in the industry. So, and that's what I've loved about hosting this and, you know, talking to other blue collar women is that like we all, although some of our opinions vary and like I support and love all of us no matter what, it's just like there is common ground. We all have like things in common somewhere, regardless of trade, like you said.
Yeah, it's honestly so nice to just build a sisterhood. And even through like TikTok and social media, like it's so cool because I get to bond with someone like you and some of the other girls. It's just
Mhm.
cool and it reassures me that like yes, we should be in the trade and
Yeah.
like we're not alone and it's just so cool.
Yep, I love to see it. I really do. So, what would you say that your biggest challenge has been so far in your career?
Definitely my physical strength. So when I first started in the trade, I was like this little twig girl who's never lifted a weight in her life, and I could not keep up. So in to set up a mobile crane, they have these big wooden pads, and they're 150 pounds. And it doesn't mean you're lifting 150 pounds straight up. It's you need to use leverage a little bit to move them around. But basically, I had to get them out of the carrier, roll them over, put them underneath my outrigger, and at the end of the day, I had to bring them back and throw them back in my carrier. And a lot of the days, like I'm by myself on site, I set the crane up by myself. So I need to be able to lift these pads. And for the life of me, I was so weak, I could not lift these. And I really didn't want, like, mentally, I could keep up with the boys, but physically, there's no way I could have kept up. And I didn't want my physical abilities to hold me back. So when I was an apprentice, I hired a personal trainer. We started with compound movements. I've now fallen in love with the gym and I truly use that so much as like a resource. But I built so much strength because I literally was so weak. I could not keep up. But yeah, being able to lift the pads and has made me successful in my career. So definitely physical was something that held me back so much, but hiring that personal trainer helped me so incredibly much.
I relate to that 100%. I'm only 5'4", and I was literally 90 pounds when I started my apprenticeship. But I just put on muscle so quick because I was doing 150 floors of stairs a day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a 9-story building with no elevator, and we were testing all our lines. So as an apprentice, my job was like run up and down the stairs to every floor, look for leaks, and I like pulling torches around up and down the stairs. I gained weight so fast and got I like you said, you have to learn leverage. You have to find a way to make things work for you. But I also can't believe that you set up your crane alone because anytime we have like a crane company come out and have an operator come out, our guys pretty much set it up for the operator. They have to do minimal work and they normally have, we call them oilers or a laborer with them that help them set up. But I can't believe that no contractors ever try to help you and stuff as a woman.
In the like when I run the rough terrain cranes on site, like industrial sites, like I barely touch a pad. The crews are great. But as
Yeah,
soon as
because there's
you
so many of them. They might
yeah,
as well
exactly.
help.
And then when I'm
Yeah,
in the city and I'm kind of like, sometimes I'll get there before the crew will get there, so I got to rig up real quick. It's more so when I'm out in the city, I don't really have the people helping me. And
right.
like other provinces in Alberta, they'll have an oiler with you on 100 ton and bigger. And that's something they're looking to put into our contract coming up here in the spring. So hopefully one day we'll have like an oiler with us too. But yeah, as of right now, like yeah, it's usually just me.
I can see that because we do have like rarely it will be just one guy that shows up and he doesn't have a oiler or laborer with him and but I don't know, the guys I work with are always that's how they taught us was to always help your crane operator, keep them on your good side, like don't piss your operators off, don't piss off anyone digging your underground for you cuz we need them like bad.
Yeah, exactly. It is nice not to piss us off because we can make your job very easy or we can make it very tough.
Exactly. Always play nice with other trades if you can for that reason.
Exactly.
So, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Are you wanting to get into more of an educational standpoint in your career?
Honestly, now that I've like been in the trades for 9 years, I am just so passionate about apprentices and I honestly just want to keep learning the bigger cranes. So keep moving up within my own company and learn the bigger gear. Yeah, just keep continuing to teach apprentices and hopefully be a role model to future females. Yeah, just so far, I just want to keep on running crane and yeah, helping the younger generation.
That's great. And if you could give one piece of advice to a woman who's wanting to start in the trades in general or as an operator, either way, what would that piece of advice be?
Honestly, just try it out because especially I didn't know the trades were an option for me. So, what is a little portion of your life to try something out? If it doesn't work, you can always quit. If it works out great, you could be like either of us, and here we are 9 years later. That is something that we both love.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to add today?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think the only thing I would say is if you are a female in the trade, um, and there's another woman on site, try to be a sister to her because I was someone when I first started that when another female would come to site, like I was very insecure about myself and I wanted to be the only female on site. Like I kind of had my guard up because a lot of the time people told me women cause drama and I just stayed away. But I really shifted
Yeah.
my mindset into now, like, why can't I have like friends that are females in the trade and like we can build each other up and we can relate on so many different things. So if you're a mean girl, like it has to stop today because there's so many amazing things you guys can do if you put your heads together. And yeah, just be nice to the other females on site.
I love that. I think that's a really good piece of advice. I, even if we have different opinions or disagree on things, we need to lift each other up because there's so few of us. And today, seriously, I had this woman commenting on my podcast TikTok, like basically yelling at the girl whose her episode came out today. Her name is Caitlin, because she said to use sunscreen, and she was like started going off and mad about that, and she's like, I need to be a guest on the podcast because you're spreading misinformation. And I'm like, this is not the place to, and she's like going off. I'm like, this is not the place for that. Like, it's okay to disagree, but we're not here to start arguments. We are here to support each other, to lift each other up, to bring awareness to future generations and women in trades, and none of that crazy, like, it's totally fine to disagree or have different opinions, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Just be nice to them on site and like especially online too. It's crazy. Like the men will comment on my TikToks and stuff, and I just whatever brush it off. But when a female does, I kind of take it personally. I'm like, girl, wait, we're supposed to be in
It's
this together.
unbelievable. It
I
real
don't
there
understand.
there's always gonna be the few that, and like you said, they're probably newer most of the times, and they're probably insecure because, and I relate to that a lot also, especially like my first couple months when I first started, and I got used to being the only woman and
Mm.
always having all the attention on me, even though, I didn't even realize it at the time. And it's like, jealousy is human nature. So, and then when another woman shows up and all the attention is on her, it definitely, I can see what, like, how and why it can bother people at first, but it is something that we just need to realize at the end of the day. We're all here to work, and women, we should be lifting each other up because, like you said, the sisterhood, and to have someone who actually understands what it's like and what we go through, on a day to day basis. Like, these men don't understand what it's like to get your period at work and have cramps all day. Like, they don't.
A
That's
hundred
something that
percent.
only women can relate to. So,
I totally agree. And it doesn't mean we're man haters. Like truly
no.
the men in our trades are great. They teach us, they mentored us, and like I am so grateful for each and every one of them who've taught me, but I want to be able to show that how they've mentored me to men and women, and it's just so
Yeah.
important to maybe have another female to have her to look up to, like for her to
Mhm.
be able to look up to me as well. So definitely not a man hater, but it's just a little bit different. So it's nice
Yeah.
to have that solidarity between each other.
It is different because I do end up, considering a lot of the men my friends at
Mhm.
the end of the day, but I probably am not gonna hang out with them outside of work, especially if they're married. I'm definitely not gonna hang out with them outside of work. We can be friends, and we shoot the shit together. we talk shit together, we eat
Mhm.
lunch together, whatever. But like I'm not there to make friends with the men and hang out with them after work, but a woman, absolutely. My problem is I never get to work alongside them, or it's always such a big job when there's another woman that I never even get the chance to like talk to her, but I always make sure to like smile at her and kind of like I try to get rid of my resting bitch face for at least a second.
I love it. I love it. Even just a simple smile honestly helps so incredibly
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
One of the girls in my group, she has these stickers. Her name's Sky, and they said, "Here for the trade, not to get laid." And I love it. Like,
That's
I'm not here for
awesome.
your man. I literally am just here for my paycheck.
Period. I feel like that's great advice also. Yeah. Well, I think we had a really good talk today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really glad we could sit down and do this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hunter. It's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for having me as a guest in your podcast. And I'm super excited for it to come out and I can share it with all the girls from my group.
Absolutely. I think you shared some really valuable advice. I will make sure that I link all your social media in the bio so anybody that wants to follow you can follow along with your adventures and find her YEG Blue Collar Women group. Thank you, and we will catch you all on the next episode.